When people think about the fall of Rome, they usually imagine barbarians at the gates, collapsing armies, or palace intrigues, but an empire is not always destroyed by swords coming from the outside. Sometimes the collapse starts from within, from the quietest place of all, money. Rome wasn't destroyed only by wars or corrupt leaders. The real blow was the collapse of the value of its own currency. And the lessons from this story are still relevant today for modern economies that believe they can manipulate money however they want, without consequences. Let's rewind a bit. For centuries, the backbone of Rome's economy was a silver coin called the denarius. When it was first minted, it was almost pure silver. Soldiers received their pay with it, merchants preferred it, and ordinary people stored their savings in it. In other words, it wasn't just money, it was a contract of trust. But keeping an empire alive isn't easy. Armies, roads, wars, expenses grew, and taxes weren't enough. So the emperors turned to a very old and not so honorable trick, reducing the silver content of the money. Basically, minting coins that looked the same but were actually worth much less. During Augustus's reign, the denarius was 95% silver. By the mid-3rd century, it had fallen below 5%. People could literally feel the decline in quality just by holding the coin. It was lighter, cheaper, weaker. And the result? The same as always, inflation. Prices skyrocketed. Merchants refused the debased coins. Bartering came back. Soldiers demanded higher pay. As trust eroded, emperors minted even cheaper money. The vicious cycle grew and grew. This chaos triggered what we now call the crisis of the 3rd century. For 50 years, Rome suffered wars, rebellions, plagues, economic collapse. Emperors came and went within months, often assassinated shortly after taking power. Everything was unstable and chaotic, and behind it all was a broken monetary system. Diocletian tried to stop the disaster by issuing strict price controls. But when money is worthless, price lists don't work. The black market exploded. Trade collapsed. Eventually, Rome abandoned the denarius altogether, and Constantine introduced the gold solidus. It worked for centuries in the East, but the Western Empire was already far too weakened. Once Rome's economic heart stopped beating, maintaining armies, supporting trade, and running the state became impossible. So the real force that brought down the empire wasn't the barbarians at the gates. It was the crisis within the treasury. Now let's fast forward to today. This story doesn't belong only to Rome. Germany's mark collapsing in 1923, Zimbabwe printing money in the trillions, all follow the same pattern. Governments try to fix their debt problems by manipulating money, and the people always end up paying the price. And when the U.S. cut the dollar off the gold standard completely in 1971, the entire world shifted into a fiat money system, money backed by trust alone. Since then, the dollar's purchasing power has been quietly melting away. You may not notice it daily, but every year it becomes a bit more obvious. Here's the danger. If a collapse happens now, it won't be just one empire like Rome. It will affect the entire world. So what does this teach us? Inflation is not usually an accident. It's often a policy. Real wealth isn't in paper money. It's in production, skills, land, and things tied to real value. No system holds eternal trust. Romans never imagined their coins would one day become worthless metal scraps. But when trust disappears, society begins to unravel. Trade slows, contracts collapse, governments lose legitimacy. In history, the most destructive blow is often delivered not by the sword, but by debased money. If this perspective resonated with you, I'd be happy to keep telling you more. History is a great teacher, as long as we're willing to listen.